All right, this is a continuation of the Monuments and Places in Paris. This is called the Centre Pompidou, and it is the modern art museum in Paris. And whenever the designer was designing this, he was thinking about insects. If you've studied insects in your science class, you know that they have an exoskeleton. Their skeletons are on the outside. So he designed this with an exoskeleton, a skeleton on the outside. Okay. In front of this, there is a place, and a place is just a big square where people hang out. There's lots of performers out here. There's street artists. You'll find people playing guitars and people doing mimes and people doing portraits and caricatures, and people just hang out here. They take their lunch here and hang out. It's a good place to hang out. This is the Sacré-Cœur, and I took some of my students over when I was teaching high school years and years ago, and these are some of my students standing in front of the Sacré-Cœur. And if you'll remember from our last video, this is a huge church that's on the highest hill in Paris called Montmartre. And we took this picture in the elevator going up the La Tour Eiffel, the Eiffel Tower. And here are a couple of my students standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. This is this big marble square is called the Place Trocadéro, and it's one of the really great places to just kind of hang out and look at the Eiffel Tower. This was some of my students at the top of the La Tour Eiffel. If you'll notice, the Eiffel Tower is fenced in around and also on top. This is to prevent people that want to try to hurt themselves from jumping off the Eiffel Tower. This again is the Arc de Triomphe, and it looks down on the Champs-Élysées. This is the street that has really expensive stores on it. And Notre Dame Cathedral again, remember that the back of it burned down last year, and I believe it was May. And this is one of the gargouilles that's on top of the Notre Dame. Remember that they thought that these would keep away evil spirits, and also they act as gutters to drain water off the top. These are called the bateaux mouches, and they're just boats that you can take a ride on the Seine River that runs through Paris. Boat rides are about an hour to an hour and a half long. And this is the Place de la Concorde, where the obelisk is. Remember that Egypt gave the obelisk to France as a friendship offering. And this is another picture of one of my students in front of the obelisk. This is a monument where the Bastille, it was a building that the poor people stormed before they went out to the king's castle in Versailles to arrest him for crimes against humanity. He was eventually sentenced to death. And this is what the Bastille looked like, and you can see the revolution starting here with the poor people fighting against the army guard. This was in front of the Les Invalides, which is where Napoleon is buried in the back. And France has a Disneyland. It's called Euro Disney, and it's just outside of Paris. Here's Mickey and the castle at Euro Disney. This was behind that big white cathedral in part of town called Montmartre, and this was an artist doing one of my students' portraits. This is the entrance to the Louvre Museum. Remember that if you can see the line that's really long here, you have to go down an escalator, and you buy your ticket and go up another escalator inside the museum. And this is where the Mona Lisa is currently housed, La Joconde. It's behind this huge piece of glass, and then there are alarms built into everywhere here. Even if you just stick your hand over, you would have guns pointed at you pretty quickly. And Paris has all kinds of like fun fountains and serious fountains. This is in front of the Versailles Castle where the king lived. And an interesting note about the castle: back when King Louis XVI was living there, there were 454 rooms and only one toilet, and that was for the king. this is a picture of Quebec, Canada, and we'll do that one another time.